You watch these superhero movies your entire life. It's basically been my entire life watching them, and you take them for the enjoyment, and then before it was just we were watching it within one single trilogy or one franchise, and you just look at it as franchises, and you're just like, cool, and that franchise ends, and you move on. But it wasn't until the MCU that you started getting the fulfillment of connection. And in that, it was just like the connection again within that franchise. There's never been a point in my life, even Into the Spider-Verse didn't do this because, in my consideration, that is a franchise and not a connected verse. It is a franchise that works well in and of itself, and it did what it needed to do almost flawlessly. But never have I been able to be so justified by 25 years, really, I guess it was 20 years of watching movies and haven't seen every single one of them. And it all came together to just make it worth it. I didn't have to go back. Like, I went with my family and they hadn't seen every one of them. Like, we had to do a Far From Home and Homecoming recaps. And I even had to tell them, I was like, well, you still needed to see Infinity Wars and need to see Civil War, but we didn't have time for that. And that was just barely to get them to the starting line. And then to add this one, the rumors all knew, and I'm so happy I stopped looking at the trailers. Because it would have made me more angry every single time if I had waited for them. Because I knew it, and I just was like, I don't want to see this anymore. This makes me go like, no, I didn't waste a single moment. All right. It's these moments right here that I get to feel the full emotions of what happened because I experienced them in real time and got to see the loss of them to have them come back. I mean, man, like I feel like we finally have like it. Sony killed Spider-Man in 2012 is when Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, and they lowered his value, and Iron Man came in and took over that spot. Fox destroyed Wolverine and the X-Men and dropped his value down. But we finally, I feel like Spider-Man, after almost, almost 10 years now, is finally back at the number one superhero in the world. I think we literally have finally brought him back. And we just needed to get resolutions to make up for Sony's horrible mistakes at being able to put together a franchise. Like they somehow managed to pull the Sinister Six, or for the most part, the Sinister Six. Well, I mean, they've got Vulture right. I mean, Vulture's in the wings. They emphasized him a little bit, but like they managed to bring the Sinister Six into the screen without it being busy against the plot line, while also resolving the horrible mess they made of Spider-Man 3, the clutter they made of Amazing Spider-Man 2, and resolve all of it under the guise and guidance of Marvel Studios. Like that.
You give no
credit to
any
Sony.
credit.
No credit. In fact, they almost went so forth to try and ruin it by trying to bring people from their horrible Venomverse into it. And I believe Marvel Studios was like, no. This is how we're going to connect it in and make it make sense. And they managed to prevent them from sabotaging the Spider-Man universe for a third time.
Right. JP,
I'm so happy I stopped watching trailers and stopped reading fan theories, and it sucks. I apologize. I wasn't able to watch it in the cinema because in the Philippines it sucks because we've got this thing that we can't watch really nice movies near Christmas time like Spider-Man but that was a really good movie. I agree with everything Gift said. It's like finally they it under the MCU, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were given their Spider-Man are finally given justice. Like, I mean, I enjoyed the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire movies, but Sony's just so horrible at storytelling. and they change it up. They've got all these writers thinking, trying to do something different, but it just upsets people. And and I heard that they were the ones trying to do the leaks, trying to get the hype up, but it just pissed people off instead. Because Sony's just always so much, always thinking about the profit, I think. While the
Yeah.
MCU is thinking about the fans, the fans, the fans. What do the fans want? Uh, and they try to stay true to the core material as they can. Unlike, Sony and Fox.
Sony runs like Warner Brothers with the DC. Like they have all this product and they don't trust any of it. They're just like, no, it's too much for people to buy into. It'll be too campy. And Marvel Studios has always been consistent. We're gonna lean into the campy because we know how to make it seem solid into the reality. Like it flows in, even when they call it out, which they did in the in this movie, and it made sense. It not one bit of it felt campy. There was nothing lost. And even Marvel Studios knows how to change stuff and still make it make sense. And then with these added universes, like, yo, you brought me Uncle Ben twice. Now, I'm not talking about Sony. I'm talking about Marvel Studios gave us Uncle Ben twice and somehow managed to not feel like it was bad. They gave us Uncle Ben in Tony Stark's, and they gave us Uncle Ben in Aunt May. They managed to do it twice. Sony did it twice, and we were already like, we're tired of seeing this dude die. Like, stop showing us this dude. Like,
yeah, it's an interesting. I don't know where Marvel starts and Sony begins, and vice versa. What I do know is that this particular movie, just leaned really heavily on the character of Spider-Man and his two friends, Ned and MJ, really, really well. And when I watched the movie, my greatest fear was that all these characters were going to come in from all the other Spider-Man movies and going to basically suffocate the Spider-Man movie, including the potential of both Spider-Men.
right.
And what I saw was almost from the get-go that Tom Holland's Spider-Man and his friends, the love he has for friends, stay at the core of this story. Stay at the core to the story, to the point that both MJ and Ned communicate to and have a relationship with the baddies who come in outside of Spider-Man. They have a relationship. They are the ones who discover the two Peter Parkers.
Yeah.
Right? And that relationship stays strong the whole way through. So this movie stays true to the MCU Spider-Man and the MCU Spider-Man's concern of MJ and Ned.
Yeah.
And his love of them, because that's at the heart. He wants to get them to MIT. But not only he wants them to be safe, and he wants Aunt May to be safe, which is ultimately where things go to hell in a handbasket, where he cannot save Aunt May. And all these other characters link into that one story in incredibly powerful ways. And like, they're not just side characters. They're not just doing there for cameos.
Yes.
Like the way they link in all these characters from the outside, the way that they link into the main story, the way they are fleshed out as characters. Maybe the Lizard and maybe the Sandman get a little bit shortchanged, perhaps.
Yeah.
But certainly a lot of the other characters get their day, and they get a little character arc. And they get to flex their character muscles in relation to the main core of this story, including Doctor Strange. I thought he might be in this movie just to perform a particular task.
Right. Basically, just be the tool to move the story along.
But the whole thing about Doctor Strange and call me Sir or call me Stephen is actually a bit of a character arc for Doctor Strange, and he's got a long way to go with the next one. Like he's on the run now. Like he has stuffed up on this one. I love the way MJ calls him out, and he has to now deal with that in the future episodes. But getting back to it, I love the way this story continues to be about our MCU Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
Yeah.
I love the way that he grows up and becomes a man in this episode. And I love the way that none of that is compromised by fan service, in my opinion.
Yeah.
None of that is sacrificed. His story stays strong and true to the beginning to the end of this movie, to the bit where he goes from saying, I don't want anyone to forget who I am. These people are really important to my life. I really need them. To at the end saying, if I love these people, I need to let them go. In the words of the great songwriter Sting, if you love someone, set them free. And in the end, he has to set them free or he's going to destroy them. He knows this. And that includes all these characters who come in from the outside. And I love the way that as all these characters connect to this central story of Peter Parker and his love of his friends, they bring with them all the things that made them so good in those other stories. And we'll get talking to them soon. Like, what's good about Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker is good in this movie.
Yes.
What's powerful about Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is powerful in this movie.
Yes.
The Green Goblin. God almighty. The Green Goblin.
William Dafoe is he's a beast. He's a goat when it comes to
he's an asshole. He's the Joffrey of the Spider-Man. And then Alfred Molina, again, he brings that subtlety, that kind of, anyway, we'll go into that later. But I saw it twice. And the second time round, I went looking to poke holes in this story, and I found it really, really hard to find what's wrong in the storytelling here, because it's bloody great for anyone who has seen all the Spider-Man. It may be difficult, granted. I don't know how your family handled it, Gift. It may be difficult for people coming in who don't know the first three Sam Raimis and don't know the Andrew Garfield ones. But if you know those films, this is a very, very
literally
good film.
Let's remind our friends to please click on the subscribe button and hit that notification bell so you know when we have new videos out.
Subscribe.
Die.